Time Wizard Tuesday, guys, coming at you. Today, we are going to start off by talking about the deck list I shared last week and how it went for me in tournament. Okay, so I did take a picture of all of my opening hands, and I'll post those so people can see. So, round one, it was me versus Amaryllis Burn. So in this game, I lost 0-2, did not win a single game. Game one, I had Zombie World out for a second, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to win this. And then he was finally able to out the Zombie World, and I could not get rid of all his Amaryllis. There was nothing I could do to stop him from burning me out. He actually had game 2 turns sooner. However, he did not notice because he didn't realize he could just crash my Amaryllis into Ancient Gear Gougatron and kill me that way to burn me. I think I was on 1800 and he had 3 Amaryllis out. He could have just crashed all 3. I had no back row at the time. So then game 2, we can see my opening hand. I started with Solemn, Machina Force, Sangan, Terraforming, DD Crow, and Plague Spreader. I was like, oh, this hand's pretty hot. I didn't like the Solemn too much. I probably should have decided this Solemn out, but it's fine. I never activated. I think he MST'd it in the end phase or something along those lines. But I will say for game 2, my hand slowly turned into DD Crow, Soul Release. I think that was my ending hand. It was one of those I just played all 3 and scoot because there was nothing I could do. He was able to just take care of everything I did, and the Force, I never used it either. I do believe Force remained in my hand the entire game. Never saw anything, and game 2 was just me losing horrendously. So that started off a 0-2 for me. Did not feel good. Then the next match, again, as you can see, I have Sangan in my opening hand, so that's 3 games in a row. I have drawn Sangan in my opening hand, and 2 games in a row for the Plague Spreader, but it's also the second time I opened Deco. This hand was okay, however, I was playing against Jinzo OTK. So this is one of those where whoever gets the Cyber Dragon at the best time is probably going to win. And suffice to say, he was able to out my board with Cyber Dragon. We went back and forth a little bit in game 1, and then I did just end up losing because he was able to take control and kill me thanks to having Raikou, and Raikou. He saw all 3 Raikous in game 1 and just popped everything I attempted to do. Game 2, my opening hand was Nobleman, Gear Town, Deep Prison Heavy, Bottomless Trap Hole, and the good old Cyber Dragon. I tried to slow roll that Cyber Dragon for as long as I could to get a good Chimera Tech out of it, but eventually I did have to use it for a Fortress so that I would not fall behind. I did a YOLO play with the Gear Town and a Fortress, and I was like, if this lives for another turn and he doesn't have his own Cyber Dragon, I will just win this game. Unfortunately for me, he had the Cyber Dragon and he had the Future Fusion, so it was just a wrap there. But I did knock a Raikou on turn 2, so that's cool, I guess. You know, it is what it is. But I ended up losing that to just being OTK'd thanks to Edison Format being Edison Format and Cyber Dragon being a hell of a card versus this deck. So I start off 0-2, 0-2 overall in the tournament. So, of course, round 3, I have the bye. And then round 4, we start off, I figure, hey, maybe if I win this one because, you know, there's only 17 players. That means half the room is getting top 8. I'll stick around and try and win this one single match and go 2-2 and sneak into top 8. So I open up Limiter, Salvo, Gear Town, Fortress, and Torrential versus Diva Heroes. So this game was okay. Game 1 was a little back and forth for a second. I never did anything with the Salvo, though, unfortunately. I never drew Deco. I never had anything. I ended up pitching Salvo for Fortress. He goes 0 and then forces me to crash. And, he ends up winning game 1 with, I think, us. Let's see. I think game 1. No, that's not what happened game 1. Game 1, he had Caius targeting Fortress, and then he shows me his hand, and it's like double Miracle Fusion, and I just couldn't stop him from beating me that turn. So I lost from that. That's what happened game 1. And then game 2, I opened up DD Crow, Fortress, Gear Frame, D-Prison, and the good old Machine of Force. So this hand seems pretty good, right? But he was able to out my plays, and yeah, so I had the double DD Crow. At one point, I did have to set a Crow. I used one Crow to banish Malicious, and if I did not set the Crow, I could have stopped him from winning because I had the Crow, and he only had one hero when he went for the Miracle Fusion. But unfortunately, I set the Crow so that he wouldn't kill me from attacking. It was just rough. It was rough. My life points were getting low. He had all the counters for everything. The deck did not perform well. I did not see any Gear Town cards that that game. So overall, the deck did not perform well, and it made me feel bad. You know, I went 1-3. It has been a while since I had such a bad record where my only win was a bye. So I was a little salty. You know, I went ahead, went home, thought about life, and now today we are going to take a look at the very first Edison Format deck. I say Edison Format as in this is the deck I played post 2010. I moved to Italy. I was looking forward to playing some GOAT. I hadn't really played Edison. I didn't have Edison cards. I had a GOAT deck though. And then I found that this local was bigger for Edison, so I contacted him like, hey, yeah, I'll get a deck and I'll try and show up. And the one guy was like, nah, man, you can just borrow my deck. Come and play. So I came to the tournament. This was the deck he loaned me. So he loaned me an Ancient Gear Gadget deck. I did make a few changes to his build, but not too heavy changes. I think I added another smashing. It probably should have played 3 Gear Town, but you know, this was my very first Edison event outside of 2010. And this was also my first Yu-Gi-Oh event in like 2 or 3 years thanks to COVID. So, you know, I was a little nervous going into it, but it was really cool of him to loan me the deck. And this is also the same player that I mentioned in the last video of the Machina Earth deck, the Machina Earth. So he is a big Machina player. As you can see, he loves to play different Machina decks, different machine decks, because in Vanguard, he also plays those big machines. So first things first, shout out to Lolo. Didn't mean to come off the way I did in the last video where it seemed like I was shitting on you. No. Much love, Lolo. You know how it is, man. So the deck, this is what I played. My very first Edison Format event ever was this deck. So it is just Ancient Gear Gadgets with Solidarity. And I do remember this tournament. I think I went X1 getting top 8, maybe top 4. It was my very first ever Edison Format event. I didn't know anybody there. It was just this guy. I barely could, knew his name. Loaned me this deck, loaned me all the cards. I think I added in the Pulling the Rugs myself. Maybe the Crows I added in myself. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. The extra deck, I just flushed it out with 15 because the one he gave me wasn't 15 because it doesn't play tuners, so it's not too big a deal. The Chimera Techs were the more important cards, obviously. But with Brain Control, you never know when you might get a tuner, so you throw in some, and of course the Starlight Road for the Stardust Dragon. So I remember specifically with this event, I took it very, very serious because this was my introduction to the Italian players. It was my first time ever coming to the locals, and I wanted to make an impression that, I'm not just some scrub that doesn't know what he's doing. I'm a force to be reckoned with. I'm here. I'm going to play seriously. So this was the event. I was quiet the entire tournament. I was sitting thinking about every play. I was very calm and just paying attention. I will say now that I go there more casually and know everybody, I do not play that way anymore. That is just not who I am. But when I want to be serious, I can. So for this event, I was very, very serious. I tested this deck a couple of times online with my friend. That is why it is even on Dueling Book for me to show it to you. So let's go through the list. It played one Ancient Gear Beast, one Ancient Gear Galvatron Dragon, one Ancient Gear Golem, which before I played the deck, I was like, oh yeah, cool, Gear Town can summon that. And he was like, no, it can't. It can't be special, just like Beast can't be special. But this card showed out. It won me at least 2 games. So I will say being able to tribute the one gadget for the Golem was really strong. And of course we have our gadget engine. We have 2 greens, 2 reds, 2 yellows, and the Machina engine, 3 gear frame, 2 fortress. There are no force because we do have these bigger ancient gears in the deck. So looking back at this deck, it doesn't seem too strong, but it really worked out that day. I was playing very patient, very careful. I made very good reads throughout the tournament. I bluffed really well. And again, nobody knew me. So I had that factor of they didn't know how I played. They didn't know what to expect. Only a few people even knew I was borrowing this deck. So we had the 1 Brain Control, 2 Gear Town. Like I said, maybe should have had 3. Heavy Storm, Limiter for the just big pushes, which I did win a game with Limiter, Ancient Gear Golem, and there was just nothing they could do about it because he says no, and he has Piercing. So we also have the MST Double Knocks, Double Smashing, as you can see, our Spot Removal, Double Pot of Avarice to get these things back in the deck so we can keep winning. Solidarity was so good all day, boosting these little gadgets and being able to run things over. The Terraforming to search out the double gear towns. So one of the 2. So usually with this specific build, once you get the gear town out, that first one goes off. The second one will just remain face up for the rest of the game so that you can tribute off these ancient gears. And if it does get heavied while Galvatron's in the grave, all the better because we can bring it back out and get that second one. So this one wasn't too focused on the gears. It was more focused on just getting down the little gadgets, putting up the solidarities, and winning the game. So we have more spot removals with our bottomlesses and D-prisons to get rid of summons and attacks. Divine Wrath was amazing. It worked out really well for me throughout the day. Anytime I drew it, it was really good, as well as the Oppression. Mirror Force is Mirror Force. There's no explanation needed. Same with the Solemn. The Starlight Road, it was the only way for me to get a synchro. This actually won me my final game, I do believe, of the tournament. This was the first time I had ever played against Benny, and I had the Starlight Road for his heavy to out it and get down the Stardust so that I could push through and get game. And then we have the Torrential and Trap Dust Shoot. The side deck, we played 2 Crows, 2 Fossil Dyna, 2 Light Imprisoning Mirror, 2 Rugs, 3 Shadow Imprisoning Mirror because I was really worried about Black Wings being an annoying thing with the Vayu as well, Double Dust Tornado, and of course Cyber Dragons in case we run into any other machine mirrors or just for our own machines. Alright, so we would usually side out the solidarities, obviously, when we were siding in the DD Crows and whatnot. I think I just deleted solidarity from the deck when I drug it down to the side. So we'd side out the solidarities when we needed to put in the more spells and traps and monsters. Nobleman is not good versus every deck, so it was one of those that's easy to take in and out as well. And then our extra deck, we'll just take a look at that real quick. Triple Chimera Tech, because it's the only thing that mattered. And then our obvious synchros, you know, just in case. Probably could have played Android. Probably did play Android. This list may not 100% be the list I played on the day of, because like I said, I was borrowing stuff and mixing it with what little cards I did have. Like I had like a Bryonic and a Goyo, things like that had been reprinted. But overall, the deck did really well for me. Let's just click it again and make it come back here so we can see it. So this was the first deck I ever took to an Edison tournament. It did really well for me. Like I said, it started me off. Everybody saw that I was here. I was serious. I could play the game. But again, now I'm a little less serious and I joke around a lot more and I just take it a little more casually since I've been a bunch of times. But I wanted to make a good impression that very first day. And I do remember one of my games, I won it really quick. I think I like double limited or something one round. And this guy just asked me to play. And we sat over there. He had a maxed out, well, almost maxed out. I think he was missing like a championship, like the Champions Pack Foolish Burial or something like that for the deck. But he had like maxed out quick draw. We sat there back and forth just playing games, not talking at all. It was just quiet, just me and him. We played like 6 or 7 games just really quick. And people were watching and just... I think I really earned the respect of the people that day. Maybe not. Maybe I'm overthinking it, you know. Maybe nobody cared. But they saw me beating this guy who they know is a regional level topping player. I don't know if he's ever topped a YCS. He might have. He's a pretty well-known player. I'm not going to throw his name out there, but he's well-known here in Italy. A lot of people know who he is. And we played just back-to-back games. And, you know, we said 1 or 2 words the entire time. So that is one of the things I do love about Yu-Gi-Oh! And I do love about these older formats where everybody just knows what all the cards do, you know. When 2 people who know the decks can just sit down, play without saying a word, the language barrier does not matter because we already know the cards. We know what's happening. And that was just such a beautiful moment the first time I ever came to the locals. It was great. That was when I met the Edison Format Italia crew before I was a member of the Edison Format Italia crew helping out. So it was just a special moment and it was awesome to be a part of that. So I will say this deck right now, if I ran this back, probably wouldn't be that great. Because I'm not that player now. I could sit and probably play this seriously, but this is one of those decks where you have to get those lucky matchups, have those lucky moments to get into the top. It's a strong deck for sure. Is it the best deck? In no way is it. But it can get you top 8. It can win you prizes. Maybe not win the entire event, but it'll get you there, especially if nobody is on Chimera Tech, because a lot of people are, you know, taking Chimera in and out of their deck these days. But it was great. It was great fun. So that was just a little story time for you guys on the first time I ever went to locals here in Rome. It was a great experience, and as you could tell, I went back week after week after week. I think I played in my first tournament with my own deck like 2 weeks later after all my cards had arrived. And I do believe I top 8'd again. I think I topped every week for, I don't know, maybe my first 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks of coming there. And then I eventually was like, okay, I'm just going to start playing just ridiculous decks. So every week I play a new deck. I don't know if y'all are aware of that, but I've only repeated decks 2 times. I played Vayu Turbo twice, and once was for a regional, once was for the regular tournament. And I played the Flamvell Blackwing 2 times. I played the Flamvell Blackwing once for a regional, once for a tournament. But the only time I ever played the same deck for the local tournament 2 times in a row was the Black Garden Burn, because I did not like that I didn't top that first week because I felt like I should have. So I played it back, I ran it back, and I did get that top. And I've still been messing around with the Black Garden deck, but I don't know. I think today was just going to be a little story time day. We started off talking about how the Ancient Gear deck failed me at the beginning of the video. So I did go 1-3. Only win was the bye. I'm sorry, guys, but I have to put perspective on it. The first time I ever played Ancient Gear here in Italy, I did top. So the Ancient Gears are hit or miss a lot of the time. It's a fun deck. They're very strong cards, obviously, but sometimes they can be a little bricky, especially if you just draw all your side deck and you're just sitting there watching as they just beat your face in because you have no monsters to really attack with. But that's besides the point. There's no salt in that. No salt at all. So just a story time video today, guys, with a little bit of a deck profile. So I want to thank everybody that watched this until the end. Shout outs to Edison Format Italia. Shout outs to Angela Draghi. Angels and Dragons, if I pronounced that incorrectly in Italian. Shout outs to Lolo for loaning me this deck. And thanks for watching, guys. Remember to like, subscribe, and see you tomorrow for What's Cooking Wednesday.